Zartasha, where are you? Still not ready yet? Gul Khan called out, his voice echoing through the small house. And she had locked herself in the bathroom. There was no response, just complete silence. Gul Khan lay on the bed for a while, swinging his legs in irritation. But soon his patience wore thin. He stormed up to the bathroom door and started pounding on it. Are you going to spend the whole night in there? Get back in the bed, now, he shouted, his voice thundering with anger. Still, there was no sound from inside. What? Have you died in there? He yelled again, now furious. Will you come out on your own, or should I break this door down? At that moment, the door creaked open. Zartasha stepped out, trembling in fear. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. Please, Gul Khan, have mercy on me, she begged, hands folded, pleading for compassion from her husband. I'm completely exhausted. I'm not well. I've had a fever since yesterday. For God's sake, let me go tonight. Gul Khan grabbed her wrist roughly and shoved her back onto the bed. What mountain-breaking labor have you done that you're acting like you're dying? You're just fulfilling your duty, aren't you? And this child won't be mine alone, it'll be yours too. What's the problem? Other women happily give themselves to their husbands, but you act like you don't even want a child. You're so cold with me that nothing even happens. You're the reason it hasn't worked. His voice was full of bitterness. Despite having just forced himself on her earlier, Gul Khan now once again pinned Zartasha down. Her back was throbbing with pain. Please, Gul Khan, have mercy, she sobbed, trying to free herself from him. I'm drained. For the past month, you've left me completely worn out. I don't have the strength anymore. When it's meant to happen, it will. But don't turn me into your experiment. But Gul Khan was deaf to her pleas. His mind was consumed by just one obsession. He wanted a child, and he wanted one immediately. In a frenzy, he gripped her hair in one fist and clamped both her arms down with the other. Zartasha no longer had the strength to resist. She was no match for Gul Khan, a large, strong man in the prime of his youth. Moments later, a scream escaped from Zartasha's throat, and she slipped into unconsciousness. Because once again, Gul Khan had asserted his dominance over her, his so-called right. After half an hour of relentless abuse, he finally got up, his face bearing a sickening, victorious smile. See? You should feel lucky, Zartasha. Look at the kind of man you have. See how well I fulfill my duty toward you. A woman is supposed to want this, right? Then what's your problem? Gul Khan said mockingly as he headed toward the bathroom. Meanwhile, Zartasha, half unconscious and lying on the bed, was struggling to breathe. Every part of her body ached with unbearable pain. Tears streamed down her face as she clutched the bedsheet tightly in her fists and mourned her own fate. The same Gul Khan whom she had married out of love, today she had grown to utterly despise him. His obsession with having a child had driven him to horrifying extremes. Someone had once told Gul Khan that if he slept with his wife every single night without fail, she would definitely conceive within the month. And from the third month of their marriage, Gul Khan had begun putting this theory to the test. But the third month had passed with no pregnancy. And now they were into the fourth month. Zartasha's condition had deteriorated. She looked like a living corpse. Without missing a single night, Gul Khan pounced on her like a beast, used her body to satisfy his ego, and then demanded a child. Zartasha had given him everything she could. What more was left? Most nights, she would cry her heart out, begging God, Ya Allah, bless me with a child so I can escape this torment. But fate had something else in store for her. The fourth month was nearly over, and her womb was still empty. Now, she had begun to fear Gul Khan's madness. She was terrified that in his desperate need for a child, he might one night end up taking her life. Even now, she sat up from the bed with great difficulty. The blood-stained bedsheet was a silent witness to her suffering, a brutal proof of Gul Khan's growing savagery. A short while later, Gul Khan emerged from the bathroom, lit a cigarette, and stepped outside. This was his usual habit. After fulfilling his mission, he would sit outside, chain-smoking silently. Tonight was no different. Zartasha, left behind, walked into the bathroom. Standing under the shower, she wept bitterly over her cursed fate. Gul Khan had once been her first and only love. Now he had become her first and only hatred. As delicate and beautiful as Zartasha was, her heart was even softer. She had never hated anyone in her life. She only knew how to love. But who would have thought that in the pursuit of a child, she would end up hating the very man who was once the center of her universe? After her shower, drained and broken, Zartasha collapsed back onto the bed. Her eyes scanned the room, a large, beautiful bedroom, a soft, luxurious bed, comfort all around. But what was missing was peace. The kind of peace she now desperately longed for. Her head pounded with pain. She began to slam her head against the pillow in frustration. Her stomach ached in ways words couldn't describe, and her legs felt as though they were no longer part of her body. Silent tears slipped from her eyes and soaked into the pillow. She closed her eyes, falling back into her memories. Gul Khan was the love of her youth. She had been only 14 years old the first time she saw him. He had come to her home with her father on business. Gul Khan and her father were partners in a small factory. That day, Zartasha had entered the guest room wearing a dupatta over her face, carrying a tray of tea. Gul Khan was seated there in full confidence and charm. At 26, he looked no less than a prince. Zartasha could barely keep her eyes off him. She quickly placed the tray down and turned to leave when Gul Khan suddenly called out, "Hey, aren't you Shahzad Lala's daughter?" Zartasha turned back and nodded. Her face was still mostly covered, but her blue eyes met his, and those eyes instantly pierced Gul Khan's heart. "I don't drink tea, I prefer kehwa," he said teasingly. Flustered, Zartasha nodded quickly and began to lift the tray again. But in the rush, her dupatta slipped, revealing her face. Gul Khan was stunned. He had never seen beauty like hers. Pashtun women were known for their beauty, but Zartasha's beauty was unmatched. She had slipped straight into his heart at first sight, and truthfully, she had felt the same. Her heart had begun racing wildly as her eyes took in Gul Khan's tall, strong figure. He was the embodiment of youthful masculinity, and he had stolen her breath away. Time seemed to freeze between them. Then a voice from outside the guest room snapped her back to reality. It was her father calling. She quickly pulled her dupatta back over her head, picked up the tray, and rushed out. "Zartasha, where are you going with the tray? Why didn't you serve the guest his tea?" her father asked sternly. "Baba, he said he prefers kehwa," she answered softly. "Oh, then go and make it quickly, it's cold. We have to leave soon," her father said, his tone firm. She was only 14, so she was still allowed to enter the guest room. In their community, girls above 16 weren't allowed near male guests. A few minutes later, with the kehwa ready, Zartasha re-entered the room. This time her father was sitting with the guests, so she quietly placed the tray on the table and slipped out. But she didn't go far. She hid behind the staircase near the entrance, heart pounding. She wanted to catch one more glimpse of Gul Khan, the man who had stirred emotions in her that she never knew existed. A while later, Shahzad Khan stepped out of the house, and just behind him, Gul Khan slowly began to make his way toward the door. But before leaving, he paused for a moment and cast a deep, piercing glance at Zartasha, who was hiding behind the staircase. His eyes were sharp. He had spotted her despite her efforts to stay hidden. A subtle smile spread across his face, and Zartasha's heart skipped a beat. Slowly, she removed the edge of her dupatta from her face and allowed him a glimpse of her. Gul Khan's smile grew deeper as he soaked in her beauty one last time before walking out the door, and that was the moment when their story of love quietly began. Within a few weeks, Gul Khan's father came to propose marriage for Zartasha, but when he returned after making the proposal, Shahzad Khan flew into a rage. He grabbed Zartasha by her hair and demanded, "Tell me, how long have you been involved with Gul Khan, and how did I not find out?" Through tears, Zartasha cried out, "Abba, there's nothing going on between us. I haven't done anything." But Shahzad Khan's blood was boiling. For some reason, he was convinced his daughter had done something shameful. It was Shahzad's wife, Najma, who intervened. "If someone has come with a marriage proposal, how is that the daughter's fault?" she reasoned. "She's a young girl. Of course, suitors will come. Haven't you heard the saying, 'Where there's a fruit-bearing tree, people throw stones'? Don't forget, Shahzad Khan, you also sent a proposal to my family through your father. Did I have any relationship with you back then? Why are you accusing your daughter? If Gul Khan is a good man, then say yes. And if you don't like him, say no." But don't raise your hand against your own daughter. Najma's words softened Shahzad Khan's anger slightly. He muttered, "The boy seems decent, but he has no mother, no sisters. He just lives with his father, and even that old man is usually away in the city. He lives all alone here. How can I give my daughter's hand to a man who lives by himself?" Najma was stunned by this reasoning. "Shahzad Khan, people beg for proposals like this. It's good. Your daughter will live in peace. Say yes to the wedding. I also want Zartasha to be married and settled. And you know the rules of our community. If something goes wrong later, they'll slit her throat in the name of honor. Protect her future. Marry her off." Najma's words, full of urgency and truth, finally struck Shahzad Khan. He agreed to Gul Khan's proposal. From that day on, it was as if joy had flooded both Zartasha and Gul Khan's lives. They were ecstatic that their love had been accepted so easily. Gul Khan arrived on the wedding day with a full Pashtun-style procession. Zartasha, a vision in red, stepped into her new life holding his hand. Dressed in a deep red bridal dress with dark kohl in her large eyes and deep red lipstick on her lips, she looked like an angel. She was ready to sweep Gul Khan off his feet. Gul Khan brought his bride into his grand home, seated her like a queen on the bed, and said, "Let me just send off my friends. I'll be right back." When he reached his friends outside, they clapped him on the back and teased, "Gul Khan, you're a real man, strong and handsome. But now, don't keep us waiting. We want to hear the good news soon, that you're going to be a father." "Let's see how much of a man you really are," they laughed. "If you don't have a child soon, the entire community will gossip. You know how it is. If there's a delay, people start questioning your manhood." They burst into laughter. Gul Khan only nodded silently. Because in their community, if a man didn't produce a child quickly, people started to whisper. Some even called such men impotent, and such men were not respected. Even Gul Khan was under the same pressure, to become a father at any cost. He would often boast, "Just wait and see. In the very first month, not only will my wife be expecting, but the whole community will be praising me. She'll give birth to such a beautiful, chubby, healthy baby that everyone will stare in awe. I, Gul Khan, will be a proud father." His mind was already painting vivid dreams of a glorious future. "Go fulfill your duty as a husband," his friends would tease, "and prove your manhood." With that thought burning in his mind, Gul Khan bid farewell to his friends and made his way to Zartasha. Zartasha's beauty had always captivated him, and tonight, his obsession with proving his masculinity was at its peak. As he complimented her, he suddenly pulled her into his arms. 14-year-old Zartasha, innocent and unaware of the world's harsh realities, froze in his embrace. Gul Khan poured out his passion without pause, overwhelmed by emotion. But in his frenzy, he forgot kindness. Without the slightest compassion, he took what he believed was his right. Zartasha's cries echoed off the room's walls, but Gul Khan was lost in his own storm. When he finally stepped back, Zartasha lay there, broken and silent, like a half-living soul. "Listen, Zartasha," he said. "I love you deeply. Don't let my love be in vain. Give me the happiness of a child soon, or you'll fall from my heart." His words sent a chill down Zartasha's spine. She hadn't imagined that the first night of marriage could be like this, and now, this pressure, to become pregnant as soon as possible? Her body trembled in pain and fear, but she tried to gather herself. She had begun a new life with Gul Khan, but each day after that seemed heavier than the last, especially when a month passed and she still hadn't conceived. Men from the community started taunting Gul Khan. "Hey, Gul Khan, it's been a month. When are you going to give us the good news?" Life became unbearable for him. He feared that if he couldn't become a father soon, the entire community would mock him. He began treating Zartasha more harshly every night, and by the third month, things had grown worse. One of his friends gave him crude advice. "If you don't miss a single night, I guarantee she'll be expecting in no time." That idea took root in Gul Khan's mind. Night after night, he forced himself onto Zartasha, as if she were some lifeless object, not a human with feelings and pain. She lay there, silently weeping, her spirit shattering a little more each time. She didn't even realize when her love for Gul Khan had turned into hatred. And then, one night, he crossed all limits. He left her body so bruised and torn that the bed was stained with blood. Zartasha nearly passed out, and he was forced to rush her to the hospital. The female doctor examined her and was horrified. She scolded Gul Khan fiercely. "What have you done to this poor girl? There's not a single part of her body that hasn't suffered. Do you think this is how children are made?" Gul Khan sat there, ashamed, head bowed. "What can I do, doctor?" he said, voice trembling. "It's been 4 months. And she's still not pregnant. People are laughing at me already." "Have you lost your mind?" the doctor snapped. 4 months of marriage is nothing. And you're obsessed with becoming a father? At least let this poor girl live in peace for a year. She was already married off too young. And on top of everything, she had to be married to someone like you, an animal. Do you realize she could have died from the amount of blood she lost because of your brutality?" The doctor glared at Gul Khan as she handed him a prescription. "You should be thankful you brought her to the hospital in time. Otherwise, you would have lost her." She continued sternly. "Now listen carefully. Don't even think about going near your wife for at least 1 month. She needs rest. Her body needs healing." Gul Khan's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean, doctor? You're telling me I can't even touch my wife for a whole month?" "Yes, exactly that. Don't touch her," the doctor snapped, barely containing her anger. Looking at the poor girl's condition had shaken her soul. Her voice trembled with frustration and compassion. "So I have to wait another month for a child?" Gul Khan repeated, clinging to his obsession. "Have you lost your mind, Gul Khan?" the doctor scolded him. "You'll have a child when Allah wills it. Why are you so bent on destroying this innocent girl? Listen carefully. If she ends up like this again, I won't hesitate to call the police." The warning echoed in the room, heavy and final. The doctor had tried her best to both reprimand and educate him. After some time, she reluctantly allowed Zartasha to go home with him. Zartasha's face had turned pale, and her hands and feet trembled from weakness. When they reached home, Gul Khan shut the door behind them and began muttering angrily, pacing the room. "You must have said something to that doctor," he accused. "That's why she told me to stay away from you for a whole month. Just tell me this. Am I supposed to sit and hear people mock me for another month?" He turned to her, frustration boiling over. "I thought you were a young girl, strong and fertile. I expected you to give me good news in the first month itself. But you've shattered all my dreams. Because of you, my honor is at stake." He shook Zartasha harshly and she burst into tears. "What have I done wrong, Gul Khan? Every time you demanded your right from me, I gave myself to you without protest. Look at the wounds on my body. Did you ever feel pity for me? And now, at least, listen to the doctor." Zartasha wept, her voice barely steady, but Gul Khan remained consumed by one thought: that if she didn't bear a child soon, he would be publicly humiliated. He managed to stay quiet for a few days, but on the 5th day, his patience ran out. "Listen, Zartasha," he said, approaching her again. "Doctors only know how to nag. I've stayed away for days already, but now I want to be happy. I want a child. I can't wait another month. Look at our neighbor Lala. He got married around the same time and his wife is already expecting. He walks around the community like a king, and look at me, slinking around in shame." He softened his voice and sat beside her gently. "It won't just be my child. It'll be yours too. Let me come close to you." Zartasha's eyes welled up with tears again. "My body is still in pain, Gul Khan. I don't have the strength." "My sweet Zartasha," he whispered, caressing her hand. "I promise I won't hurt you. I swear I won't. You know? But the doctor warned us clearly, Gul Khan. If something like this happens again, I could lose my life." Zartasha's trembling voice broke the silence. "Don't you love me anymore?" she asked, gazing at him with her large, tearful blue eyes. "I do love you," Gul Khan said. "That's why I want a child with you. If I didn't love you, I would have already married another woman by now." That sentence shattered Zartasha's heart. Her breath caught in her chest, and without even realizing, she opened her arms, letting Gul Khan approach. He pulled her close and held her tightly, and once again the same madness overtook him. Like a man possessed, he began doing as he pleased, ignoring her pain, ignoring her tears. Zartasha didn't scream this time. She simply slipped into unconsciousness. She was already suffering from blood loss, weakness, and physical agony. This time, her body couldn't bear the pain. When Gul Khan finally stopped and noticed she wasn't responding, panic set in. He shook her, called her name, but she had stopped breathing. In terror, he wrapped her in a sheet and rushed to the nearby clinic. The same doctor was there. One glance at Zartasha's pale, lifeless body, and the doctor exploded with fury. "You did this again, Khan. I warned you. I told you to stay away from her." "She's not breathing." "Doctor, please. I didn't mean to." Gul Khan was frantic. His love for Zartasha was real, but his desperation for a child had blinded him. The doctor rushed to check her. Though her breath was faint, it was still there. She needed intensive care, urgently. "We don't have an ICU here," the doctor said firmly. "You'll have to take her to the city. Now, call an ambulance immediately." Gul Khan obeyed without hesitation. He carried Zartasha to the city hospital where she was placed in the ICU. Her condition was critical. She was fighting for her life. Soon, Zartasha's parents, Shehzad Khan and Najma, arrived at the hospital. Najma, her mother, was shocked beyond words. Her daughter had never shown her wounds, never told her what was happening. But even if she had, what could Najma have done? In their community, a woman's voice held no weight before a man's. After a week in ICU, Zartasha regained consciousness. But the news that awaited her was worse than death. She would never be able to become a mother again. The injuries to her womb were irreversible. At only 14, her ability to bear children had been taken away from her, all because her husband couldn't wait. This news devastated her parents. But Gul Khan was shattered too. He sat weeping, crushed by the truth. When Zartasha finally opened her eyes and saw him beside her, she turned her face away. "Go, Gul Khan. I can never give you children now. Free me from this burden. Free me from this relationship," she cried. Gul Khan grabbed her hand tightly. "Please forgive me, Zartasha. I was blinded by my own ego. I only wanted to feel like a man, to hold my head high in front of the community. I never imagined it would come to this." "Why didn't you think?" Zartasha sobbed. "The doctor warned you. She pleaded with you, but you only cared about proving yourself. Because Lala's wife was expecting, right? That's all that mattered to you?" Zartasha broke down, crying like a child. Gul Khan held her close, tears falling from his eyes. He didn't want to lose her. He loved her. He truly did. But his desire for a child had driven him to madness. Now that the madness was gone, he saw clearly. He had already lost too much. "Gul Khan, I cannot be a mother anymore. Please let me go," Zartasha whispered again. "No, Zartasha, I will not leave you," Gul Khan said, his voice steady now. He took her home from the hospital, but something had changed between them. They barely spoke. Zartasha, too weak to express herself, often sat silently in corners, shedding quiet tears. Sometimes she blamed herself. Sometimes she blamed fate. But Gul Khan, he had begun to understand. Time, however, was slipping away like sand through fingers. Today it has been almost 4 years since Gul Khan and Zartasha were married. They live a childless life. Had Gul Khan practiced patience? Had he trusted Allah? Perhaps their home would now be filled with the laughter of children. But sometimes, in trying to prove their masculinity, men inflict wounds on women that leave scars for a lifetime. Before becoming men, they must first become human, compassionate, gentle, and patient, no matter what tribe, community, or class they come from.